Don't be an asshole. Yeah, it was funny when I was let's see. All right, we are live.
Hello and welcome to the first live No Gimmies podcast that we have ever done. We are streaming on YouTube. We are also available, also always on all of your favorite podcasting platforms, Spotify, Apple. But my name is Evan Cook, officially for all of those who have never seen my face before. Hi. And I'm joined as always by my co-host, Aaron Bullwinkle. Aaron, how you doing, buddy?
Besides being a little jealous about the fact that you were able to get a haircut and I am not, and being riddled with bug bites from my camping trip, I'm doing great. I'm excited to talk basketball. It's been far too long for us.
Yep. As I said on Threads, Aaron and I have both personal and day job related reasons for why we haven't been able to record basically throughout a large chunk of this playoff. We do apologize for that. Also, I want to put it on the record. I did not get a haircut today because we were going live. It just happened to be scheduled today and we were going live on the same day. Technically, we were supposed to record last night. But I do
For
feel nice.
fortuitous timing, nonetheless. You're looking
Great
nice and
timing
streamlined.
nonetheless.
Yeah.
I also want to point out one thing to you since we are live and people are seeing this. Do you see this beautiful Oklahoma City shirt that I'm wearing?
I sure do, sir.
So I just want to let you know that I got this shirt in 2012 in Oklahoma City, the last time the Thunder were in the NBA Finals. The shirt's a little worn. It's got some oil stains on it. I've changed my oil in this shirt before, done some yard work in this thing, but I brought it back because the Oklahoma City Thunder are back in the NBA playoffs for the first time in 13 years and still
The,
fits. It
the
looks great.
the finals for the first time in 13 years, and I'm glad to see that you're not a superstitious person.
Oh, I have no real I'm just a little stitious, but
Yeah, just a little. You're
I'm not
medium stitious.
superstitious.
Yeah, little
I
stitious.
did say in the playoffs last year, I went to watch the game at my buddy Zach's house, and every time we watched the game together, the Thunder lost. I stopped watching games with him last year. But to Zach's credit, he and I have watched games this year, and the outcomes have been different. This is a completely different Oklahoma City team. We are going to get to a comprehensive NBA Finals breakdown, but we want to start with the tip off, as we always do, for any new listeners, new viewers. Obviously, now that we're on YouTube, we always start the podcast off with something we call the tip off, which is where we talk about the latest news in the NBA. And the latest news recently has been about the coaching carousel has already begun. So it started a couple of days ago. Tom Thibodeau was relieved of his duties by the New York Knicks. And we recently found out that there is a new head coach in Phoenix. Jordan Ott, the assistant head coach for the Cleveland Cavaliers, is now the new man in Phoenix. He's gone younger. He's gone with someone without a championship pedigree, and he's gone with somebody who attended his alma mater at
Who
Michigan
could have
State.
seen that coming?
Oh, I know who could have seen that coming. You did. I will tell you guys this story. I was texting Aaron. He said he'd been on a camping trip and he hadn't heard the news about the Suns hirings. And I was like, well, it's down between two Cleveland Cavaliers assistants, Johnny Bryant and Jordan Ott. And Aaron's text to me was, which one of them went to Michigan State? And I looked it up and I didn't know that Jordan Hunt had gone to Michigan State. And once it was down to those two people, I don't think it was a surprise to anybody that that's who Ishbia decided to hire.
For our fan base out there, for those that aren't familiar, Matt Ishbia went to Michigan State. And if you don't know, it just means you've been completely ignoring anything Matt Ishbia has been saying for the last 3 years because all he does is talk about Tom Izzo and Michigan State. And hey, that's great. The guy was a walk-on, won a national title, blah, blah, blah. But in the last year, since he's become the owner or not, no, it's been the owner for a little bit longer, but it's in the last year as the owner for the Suns, he's now doing his best Michael Jordan cosplay, where every single guy that he went to school or is affiliated with school is now taking positions within the Suns organization. That includes
Yeah.
Brian Gregory, who replaced James Jones, who I hope Brian Gregory does a great job, but the fact that he had been in the NBA in a professional capacity for 4 months in his role is a little disconcerting. And then obviously, Ott is a guy that I think had a good reputation, so that's a little bit different. But it's just wild right now that he's going from the Jordan playbook of I'm going to hire everybody that's very familiar from college ranks, as though we haven't seen this fail, not just with Jordan, but in other situations prior to that as well, where guys just tend to do kind of the cronyism thing instead of the best hire thing. And I don't know where this fits in because I don't know enough about the guys that he's hiring in general. But I do know that that commonality is disconcerting on a long. I'm using disconcerting too much. Little worrying on after enough frequency with them.
Two things for you. One, how many first round picks do you think he's going to have to include if he has to trade Devin Booker to the Warriors for Draymond Green? So you can put
Yeah,
another Michigan State guy in. Needs Draymond, obviously
yeah.
needs Draymond. And the second thing, is it interesting to you that after trying to force fit things with Bud and with Frank Vogel, guys who have championship pedigree, that he's now committed to a younger coach? Is this a sign of him being cheap, or is it a sign of them going into a rebuilding process in Phoenix? Because
Well,
that's something that Ishbia has said that he does not want to do.
I don't think that. Well, it's tough because everything is contingent upon what happens with Kevin Durant, right? Like if the smoke that we're now hearing with Kevin Durant possibly being involved in going to the Knicks, for Cat, which we've heard talk of that a lot the last week, and the firing of Tibbs may have been something that was actually attached directly to the possibility of Kevin Durant coming there. If Kevin Durant had said that he specifically didn't want to work for Tibbs, that's all conjecture and everything there. But I think right now this hire had more to do with Ishbia's familiarity with the coach and his comfort with him than making kind of a declarative statement about the team's direction. I think in Ishbia's mind, he still thinks they're going to go out and compete for a playoff spot or a title or whatever. I don't think any of the rest of us believe that. And I also, what everything that's happening in their front office to me is only going to augur the movement that's going to happen with Kevin Durant or Booker. Because if it doesn't, and now you have a new coach with that same exact roster, only probably worse because you're going to lose Tyus Jones, who, for the cost was good for them, although he didn't do the stuff that they wanted. It's just that how is it better if we're running this back with a coach that's in his first year?
No, I don't have any concerns that they're going to run this team back. I believe that Durant is gone. I do think they have the commitment for Booker, that he's there for the long term. He is of that Kobe school, that Kobe mindset. He wants to stay with one team, even though you and I have pointed out multiple times that Kobe tried to leave the Lakers multiple times.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's neither here nor there. Um, I do think. Please tell me you saw the quote, what Ishbia said recently about his ownership style. Did you see this?
I did not, but he's always good for some
This is
golden
so
nuggets.
good.
So please
He
share.
basically said that he was a victim of new owner syndrome, but I don't think he knows what that means. Because
Yeah.
what he decided to say after that was that he is going to be much more hands-on in the moves of the organization and the decisions that are made within the organization, and not take a step back, as what most owners figure out is that they don't need to have their fingers in every pie. They don't need to micromanage. He's gone the other direction. Ishbia is actually like, guys, I'm sorry. I wasn't a very attentive owner, but now I'm going to be very hands-on. So you're going to see a lot more of this face. And he thinks that that's a good thing.
that
This is going to be a nightmare.
that
This is going to be
that is
hilarious.
the idea that I mean, literally nobody was walking around going, Matt Ishbia is just not putting his fingerprint on this organization nearly enough. We feel like he needs to get
Yeah.
more involved and be more activated in this situation. It's I like for the NBA, as much as I love all the positivity and everything else, and I want to channel things this way, having bad owners and bad organizations
We need
is
it. We
yeah,
need
it's
it.
it's good
It's good
ballast.
content.
Yeah, it's good content. It's good ballast. And you and I mean, we've talked about it on the pod a pretty good amount. I talked to, like in the newsletter, I had the Suns ranked 24th in my team rankings going into this season. But you and I have talked off. Yeah, we've talked offline so many times about how bad this situation is going to get. And what's crazy is at every single turn, they're taking the wrong direction towards being more functional. It just feels
Yeah.
like, because the other thing that happens here that's going to be interesting is whatever the Durant trade ends up, let's say it does end up Cat. Now, Cat and Booker together, first of all, is going to be very entertaining, even though I know they're boys and there's a whole relationship and everything there. But those are two guys that have the capacity to really piss off people. And so putting them together, like those guys squared, is going to be fun. But it also is not enough for me. So no matter what this is, it's going to be another down year for them. And I'm just interested to see when the finger pointing starts happening with the people that are all kind of buddy buddy and what that starts to look like, because eventually enough pressure is applied, the crabs are going to start, pinching at each other to get out of the pot.
Hey, let's not talk about crabs, by the way. I was in the ocean the other day and I put my hand down and I got attacked by a crab. So I still got a little PTSD. I got a little cut, a little boo-boo on my finger from being at the beach and took a bite out of me. But you brought up the Knicks, and I don't want to spend too much time on Phoenix because they have been I have been so thankful to have them out of my NBA life for the past several weeks. And I don't want to go back to talking about Phoenix. That team, that organization, it pisses me off to no end. I don't want to talk about them. But we should talk about Tom Thibodeau. He is now out after 5 years with the New York Knicks. He had a 535 or 565 winning percentage? Either way, it was a positive winning percentage for Tibbs. And he made the playoffs 4 out of 5 seasons. But ultimately, he came up short of the expectations of the franchise, of Leon Rose and James Dolan and Worldwide Wes, the guys that are running the show, the front office in New York. You and I have had plenty of conversations about Tibbs. We are not surprised that he has been let go. You and I think we've been pretty consistent on this. We've said that he's a floor raiser. He's not a ceiling raiser.
And you and I had talked on previous pods about this potentially being, not potentially, that this was likely going to be a make or break season for Tibbs and that we wouldn't be surprised if he was gone.
I actually, but the part that surprised me is that the fact that they made the Eastern Conference Finals, despite clearly being a rung below the other teams, the big teams in the conference. And the Knicks outlasted the other ones in their own conference.
Yeah.
The Celtics and the Cavaliers, both didn't make it out of the second round. And, you would have considered that for New York sports, for New York basketball to be considered a win. But as a lot of people point out, a lot of the trades and a lot of the decisions that were made by the Knicks front office, these were win now trades. They believed that they had win now potential with the guys that they traded for.
Yeah.
Now, immediately after the Eastern Conference Finals ended, there's been the articles have come out. Here's everything that went wrong. Here's the cat knee injury. Here's the Josh Hart finger injury. There was finger pointing in the locker room. The new report that I saw today before you and I decided to hop on was that players thought that Rick Brunson, the assistant coach, and Jalen Brunson's dad, they believe that he had too much say in the locker room. He had too much sway among some of the top guys in the locker room. You got the Villanova guys with their connection. I feel like it feels like Thibodeau was I wouldn't say scapegoated because I do think he underperformed. And I do think that he has flaws in his coaching style that you and I have pointed out multiple times. That he's too rigid, he's too inflexible. We pointed all these things out. But it does feel like this was planned from the beginning, that Tibbs wasn't long for this team, despite making it to the Eastern Conference Finals.
I think yes and no, but I think actually that rigidity and stuff, what was wild, and I think part of what ended up in a very complicated stew of why Tom Thibodeau was gone, because I think it's in front of the scenes and behind the scenes, and I've talked about this several times. We're all aware that Tibbs also is a difficult guy to work with behind the scenes, and that's not casting aspersions on his personality or anything. It's just he's so intense, he's so singularly focused that I've heard that dealing with him in management structures is just challenging, and he's not obviously the only coach that's in that. And it's also, as we break down some of the guys that are potential fill-ins, there's a reason why I don't think some of those guys are going to be in. But the other part was, I think Tibbs finally showing some ingenuity far too late was to his detriment. Because if you're Leon Rose and you're the decision-making apparatus of the Knicks, And this entire year, Tibbs has been so rigid, and there's been frustration with Miles Bridges, and there's been frustration with people in the media like ourselves
Sure.
with that. And then Tibbs finally does the things that people have been calling for the
Hold on.
entire season.
So you're talking about like him playing.
Oh, I was going to get into it,
guy,
doing
like
the yeah. So we see
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but I will say that to me, that reeked of desperation more so than a newfound understanding of how rotations work.
100%. But the other problem with it is because it was effective and you hadn't seen it the
Yes.
entire year and it was done out of desperation. If you're the management, that's what I was getting to. If you're the management, you're probably pissed off going, why did we have to wait until we were at the absolute, worst moment for you to do these things when we could have explored this and actually had
Yeah.
these guys build their confidence and their comfort level and all the rest of it before this? And the fact that it worked, I think actually worked to Tibbs's detriment if you're them, because you're like, what the fuck took you so long? And what took so long was that desperation. And that's that same frustration that people often have with him, where it's just like, we just need you to be able to we're giving, like, if you're Leon Rose or your Worldwide West, they're like, we gave you all this ingredients to make this wonderful meal, and you just kept cooking the same thing over and over again, and we got tired of seeing the same meal, and then you finally made something different, and it was great.
It was Mac's famous mac and cheese.
Yeah, exactly.
I will. Yeah, so I think the problem with Thibodeau that a lot of people might have is that he treats the regular season the same way he does the playoffs, in the way that he treats it as serious as he would the playoffs. While other great coaches like Spoelstra, Kerr, Popovich, Dagnall, if you want to throw him in, Carlisle, these guys use the regular season to see what works, to try out different lineups, to transfer guys in. And then, obviously if any trades or deals are made at the midseason, they take their time working those guys into rotations, kind of understand. They use the regular season as an experiment.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
that they know what works in the playoffs. And it seems to me that Tibbs, he was running 7-man lineups back in October, November, December. He's playing these guys 46 minutes a game like it's the NBA playoffs.
Yeah.
And that was why, and obviously we're going to get to the Pacers and the Thunder soon. But before the Pacers-Knicks series started, and I'm not here trying to brag or anything, I put $100 on the Pacers to win that series.
You and I both picked the Pacers on this podcast.
Yeah, we did. That's how much I believed it, because I believe that deeper teams. I think the era of running like these small rotations, you're going to wear these guys down.
Well, and especially in that matchup, right? Like, because that was the other thing. Like, you could get away with doing that against Boston because Boston didn't want to push the pace. Boston wasn't trying to hunt those matchups.
You can't do that with a team that runs like the Pacers do.
Yeah, and the team
that be able to get your guys rest.
If you're giving now, granted, again, we talked about Tibbs did start to throw out DeLon Wright and dust him off and all that. But if you're the Pacers, and especially when you have a supercomputer like Tyrese Halliburton, who is so good at finding your weakness and attacking it, if he's seeing the same thing over and over again, how short is the time span before he figures out what to do? And we saw it. It was 3 quarters worth of basketball. You know what I mean? By the 4th quarter in game 1, Tyrese Halliburton had broken what they were doing and figured out the best way to attack him. Now, granted, Aaron Nesmith turning into Ray Allen, the ghost of whatever great shooter you want to name, was something none of us really foresaw happening. But as much as that game feels like the tipping point for the Knicks, the Pacers, to me, were the better team the entire series. It wasn't just because that game was demoralizing, but there was never a doubt to me after that game, even going into the next game or any of the rest of that. And part of that, too, is we're going to get into the coaching matchups. You and I felt this going in. Carlisle was far and away going to be at the advantage in that Eastern Conference Finals. It proved out that way. Tibbs is now, and I do think Tibbs is scapegoated a little bit. Like, I want to go back to what you were saying, because
a little bit. It's not without warrant.
No,
but it feels like he took. I mean, whenever you lose as a coach, you're always going to take blame. Yes. That is the way that the NBA works. Players win, coaches lose. It's always been this way. But yeah, I think like they needed the reason to let him go. And you and I discussed it. Like, he was always on the hot seat because the expectations were going to be higher with a team that, won almost 50 games. They finished 4th in the East, but they weren't ever in that top tier.
I mean, I think
they were
that there
very
was,
clear about that.
to me, there was a point in about December or January when we were talking about them. But I also think because of all the other stuff we're talking about, teams started to figure out what they were doing, and what they were doing became less dangerous and volatile in pressure moments, even though Brunson was amazing late in games and stuff like that. Like, if you were able to figure out how to attack Cat and Brunson on one end, and then
Yeah.
just make sure that you minimize Cat's explosive games because they kind of come and go, you knew what you were looking at. There was never a point where so many of these other teams throughout the playoffs, and obviously this is just kind of how the playoffs work, they had moments where you went, oh, wow, that was cool. That was an interesting wrinkle. That was this. And you just don't ever see that really with Tibbs teams. Or as we talked about, you saw it way too late.
I mean, we talked about how, this was in the last series against Boston. I talked about how many leads Boston blew to New York. There were 14 plus points in the second half. They did it multiple times. But now, when you go back and look at it now that the Knicks have been eliminated, you're like, get down so many times by double digits, by 15 to 20 points in so many games against the Pacers, and then work their way back into it. They got away with it in Boston, and they had a couple of remarkable comeback wins, but that's not the way that you really traditionally want to play. You don't want to play from this mad scramble 15 to 20 points down, because you know what else? That's also taxing and exhausting, because those guys aren't coming out either. They're not coming out of the game. And he did this last year. And a lot of those guys, Hartenstein, Brunson, Hart, they all got injured toward the end of the Pacers series in the playoffs, because he wore them into the ground, and he did the same thing. It's just without the injuries this time around.
They actually had injury luck, which, by the way, I said I was going to admit that I was wrong if that didn't happen. I was wrong. It didn't happen. They survived in terms of their injury health despite him.
I was surprised.
Yeah, I was
not wishing harm on anyone.
No, of course not. No, but I mean, considering the combination of some injury-prone players and the
style in which Brunson plays too is also extremely important.
And
but I wanted to point out, and I was going to bring this up when we talked about the finals preview, but in those previous 6 games, they had 9 guys play all 6 games and average at least 14 minutes. The Pacers did. They had a full 9-man rotation.
Yeah.
And, then they had I think Tony Bradley, until he got hurt, Thomas Bryant had to fill in for him. Those guys both played in 4 of the 6 games. So, like, they had a couple of DNPs for their centers, but, like, they still had a lot. Like,
but much to your point,
every lever, and it doesn't feel desperate. It just feels timely. Yeah. And when Thibodeau, when you saw him make his adjustments, you were like, oh, he's reaching.
Yeah.
And you could just feel there was a stark difference between the two of those.
And much to your point, when we saw the Pacers during the regular season, they were going 12 deep sometimes. They contracted their bench. We stopped seeing Jarace Walker, but like, these guys getting minutes wasn't surprising to us because we were familiar with them being players that had impact for this team during the regular season. Now, here's the next thing. So, because the first conversation and the second conversation are directly tethered now. Johnny Bryant didn't get hired in Phoenix. Does this feel like it's his job?
Because not by the statement that they made as an organization, because they want a championship level coach. And I know a lot of this stuff's just going to be completely conjecture. But I've also heard that Ime Udoka is getting interest from the Knicks.
Wow.
I don't think, the reason you and I don't bring up guys who already have head coaching jobs is because that's pretty unheard of, especially a guy who just did a pretty phenomenal job, just got the Rockets to the 2 seed. They have their entire future in front of them. There were other names. I cannot remember. There was another championship level type coach. It wasn't Udoka, but it wasn't Snyder.
That's currently
an active coach, but I cannot remember who the other name was.
See, the only problem I have with some of that is, one, the actual the physical process of getting those guys. That means the Rockets also have to agree, right? Or the Knicks have to,
they have to compensate the Rockets for their coach.
When was the last time? Yeah, I mean, like Doc Rivers was like the last time we saw a coach of that kind of.
Didn't the Suns get some compensation for Monty?
Maybe
wrong about that. I thought I heard
Well,
something about
well,
that,
but
but I
they, I
might be
mean,
wrong.
but they fired Monty, so
Yeah,
that's
I don't know.
Doc
I get.
Rivers. What I'm saying is, when Doc Rivers went from the Celtics to the Clippers, he was actively under a Celtics contract, right? Like
Yeah,
you just don't
exactly.
see, we don't see that happen. Coaches that have a
Don't have
contract,
jobs. Don't
and
do
e-
that.
and personally, as much as Ime Udoka is obviously very familiar with the Eastern Conference, and the Eastern Conference is a lot easier, and the Knicks situation is good, I'm more comfortable in Houston personally, just because of what you're building there, and the burden of expectation is different. Not that Ime Udoka's sitting there going, "I don't want people expecting a lot out of me," but it's just a very different situation to bring yourself back in there. Uh, the who gets hired there is going to be interesting. We kind of, I don't think Michael Malone makes any sense for the
No,
same.
and you and I have talked about that. It's
Yeah,
really annoying.
it's those same reasons. It's that rigidity and the fact that Michael Malone behind the scenes has been a guy that unfortunately has probably lost his jobs because in part he can't get along with his management. Whoever, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I looked it up. The other name that was mentioned was Jason Kidd.
No, no, I mean, so
Hey,
do we get to just say anybody? You know what? I think Steve
no, I
Kerr's
think
interested
no,
in the
this is what
job.
I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. I'm not like I know no one's gonna aggregate me. No one's gonna think of me as an insider. Obviously, I saw this online like everybody else did. These are the reports that are coming out now. So if you think it's gonna be someone like Chris Quinn, who's been under Eric Spoelstra in Miami,
Yeah,
or you think it's gonna be
and
someone like
Ben,
Taylor Jenkins, who I think is actually a pretty good hire for them.
yeah,
I actually like Taylor Jenkins, and I thought he got screwed. He got hosed when he was in Memphis. I don't think it's going to be a guy like that because they're hunting something larger. They are New York. They always have to be splashy about these things, even though they have the time to. I mean, they could go in house. They have assistant coaches. There's Sam Cassell. He has been long rumored to be
yeah.
a head coach, and guys, a guy that players really like. Rajon Rondo had a great relationship with him. He did.
No, I'm not saying he didn't. I'm just saying Rajon Rondo is probably never the barometer in terms of a
Do you
relationship with
know
the
how
coach.
hard it is to coach Rajon Rondo?
That's kind of
To
my
have a good
point.
relationship with him is actually a pretty cool
But
thing to
is it a
do. Rick
reflection on
Carlisle
the
couldn't do it.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is because Rajon Rondo has beef with almost everybody,
The
him
fact
getting a
that he
lot,
doesn't have beef with the guy, I think should speak to his
or
credit,
does
not
it say something about the
detriment.
guy? Now,
I think Sam
this is
Cassell's not crazy. We've
no,
already seen it. We already
this
know
is
this.
this is tongue in cheek where Sam Cassell's concerned because he's been talked about for so long. I hope the guy gets a job,
He
but
deserves it. I don't
but
know what
the
this is.
problem with
This
what the
feels
Knicks want
weird.
to do is them saying they want to go big fish hunting is like saying you're going to find Moby Dick in SeaWorld. Like there is not a large talent pool to draw from in terms of these whales. There aren't those
It's the
guys out
same
there.
15 coaches that get rotated around
Yeah,
anyway. I mean, like the longest tenured, Mark Dagnall's the fifth longest tenured coach in the NBA.
I know
Been
he's in
around.
that he's in the group with who? It's Dagnall, Kidd, and
No,
who else?
so it's Spolstra, Kerr,
No, those. But I mean the three guys that have
and
been around
then
for 5 years.
it's
Dagnall, Lou, and I
Billy
think
Donovan
yeah, Dagnall, Lou, and Donovan,
and
which
Tyronn
is
Lue.
yeah. It
Well,
feels like
because the Bulls hired Billy Donovan right before the Thunder
yeah,
hired Mark Dagnall. So he's literally number five because they took the Thunder's old head coach, who is still an active coach in the league.
yeah.
I think somebody posted up and it said like the last five NBA. No, I don't think it could have been that because Dagnall's still around. But like, oh, it was like five of the coaches from like 2018 to 2023 that won NBA Coach of the Year have been fired.
Oh, that tracks.
Bud's been fired twice.
Yeah,
He's been fired by the Bucks and the Suns.
yeah.
So yeah, you can apparently win a title and get canned or win a Coach of the Year, and it doesn't really matter.
So I have a
But
question for you. Do you think
there's one
that
more. Let's wrap this guy
yeah,
up.
yeah. Do you think that this is the new landscape for coaching in the NBA, or are we in a weird kind of season? And when I mean season, I mean of the 4 seasons, like a season of kind of high turnover, and then we'll find some settling because this is crazy. This feels like hockey, where it's just like I can. I mean, I track this stuff, and now it's sometimes I'm like, wait, who's where?
I I honestly do believe that like this is the new normal for coaching.
Yeah,
They are given way less of a leash. Vogel's been fired twice too. I
yeah.
mean, same thing. He was with the Lakers and then he was with the Suns. He got fired at both of those. That guy won a championship. Budenholzer, championship. Malone, championship. You know, it's it's definitely a players league, but I'm like, I think the player empowerment's shifting back toward the organization. I think the player empowerment movement went too far. I think the pendulum's swinging back and it's balancing out a little bit.
Well, the new CBA was obviously completely
Yeah.
structured to help do that. Keep going.
I
Sorry.
think these teams need a little bit more continuity. They need to be able
Yes.
to lead, like they keep acting like it's like difficult to replace these players. It's harder to find a good coach.
Yeah.
You can always like you can always work these things out. You can always develop talent. You can always draft players. You can always get things in free agency or via trade, or you can always like restock the cabinet. And I don't know how much importance you put on coaching, but it's clear whenever you're like, yeah, like individual as an individual, how much do you, a lot of people just
To
ego
me,
managing and they don't, at a certain level, they don't think that like when you have a certain amount of talent, they don't think that coaching matters as much as people may put on it. But they need, they need a public face to blame. So they have to slap a head coach on there somewhere
yeah.
if a team falls short of expectations.
So I'm the son of a coach. So coaching to me is exceptionally important. I was also,
I'm saying at the NBA level,
no,
at a certain talent level.
I mean at the NBA level as well. And I also think, and you and I had talked about this several months ago, but the lack of continuity to me is so foolish and it's so ridiculous because coaching is so difficult and there's so many lessons to be learned on the job, and the ability to make relationships and all those things require continuity. So this idea that you're just going to have this mercenary system where a coach is going to come in and he's going to be able to elevate people. Sure, if you have LeBron James, if you have the singular best players, you can probably get away with the coach. But name the last bad, quote unquote, or suspect coach who won a title. Like, this whole thing is so weird to me in that the owners now have gotten, like, what we're seeing in Phoenix is crazy. We're looking at our fourth, like, you cannot be successful doing that. It's not going to happen. It is impossible to not have some semblance of continuity at those levels because of the need for style and voice and all the rest.
Nick Nurse, is that the answer to your question? Last bad coach to win an NBA championship?
I think
Someone
Nick
you would
Nurse
consider to be a bad coach?
I think Nick Nurse is a
That's
good
the best
coach.
I got.
Yeah, no, that's a pretty good one. But I think Nick Nurse is that type of guy who, in the right situation, he's a good coach. I don't think he's versatile enough, and that's the problem with him as a coach. And which is why Toronto, he could get away with what he was doing, and he can't in Philadelphia. But you know what I mean? Like, what was the name of the guy who got
Coach
fired?
the Cavaliers?
Yeah, Coach Cavaliers.
David Blatt.
David Blatt.
That's the person I was thinking of as well.
You know, like we see
He made the title run. I'm
Yeah.
glad that we were thinking about the same person.
Yeah.
I was sitting over. But I do want to move on because the tip off usually doesn't go that long. So for anyone who joined us, we are talkative, but I try and keep the show on track as much as I can. But we should really talk about the NBA Finals. It is here. It is tomorrow night. By the time you hear this recording, it'll be the day of Thursday. Crazy story about Indiana trying to come into Oklahoma City last night. There was such a powerful storm system that the Indiana Pacers were actually they were directed toward Tulsa, and they had to fly there and land for a while before they could take off again and come to Oklahoma City. There's a pretty nasty storm system. Welcome to Oklahoma in May, by the way.
Yeah.
If you thought the Thunder was just a fun moniker, no, it's actually just part of the ecosystem. The Thunder, the Lightning, and the tornadoes. So welcome to Oklahoma City in the fall. I'm sorry, in the spring. So we have the Oklahoma City Thunder, who right now they are sitting at 80-18
That's
on the
crazy.
season. A rarefied air. I think that.
And how about 3 of those losses come in one series? Like,
Yeah.
like that's
Denver
that's
Nuggets.
insane.
The Denver Nuggets are feeling pretty good about themselves at the moment.
Yeah.
3 of those losses in one series, and then like they lost twice to Dallas and twice to the Timberwolves or something like that. It may be my favorite stat of the year. Oklahoma City is 29-1 against the Eastern Conference. They lost one game, a thriller against the Cleveland Cavaliers. A couple of days later, the Cavaliers came to Oklahoma City and OKC beat the brakes off of them.
Which is the OKC way, right? Like, if like they're going to come back from a loss, whether they lose by a lot or a little, and probably put it on you.
They got spanked by 40 points against the Timberwolves and just decided that didn't matter.
Yeah.
They almost like even whenever the series was over and they won 4-1, the point differential was almost was closer to even than you would have imagined. It looked like a much closer series. It's just because the Timberwolves had a 40-point win.
Yeah.
Aaron, we've already established my homerism. I am from Oklahoma. I grew up there. I've been a fan of this team since its inception. So I want to start with you, and I want to hear your initial thoughts about this matchup whenever the clock hit zeros and we knew it was the Pacers against Oklahoma City. What was the first thought that you had about this potential matchup? What stood out to you?
That there was going to be some fun basketball on the floor stylistically, but that the Pacers have to execute almost perfectly to be able to make this a competitive series.
Okay, let's explore that a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think I've heard a lot of talk, and it's really annoying whenever you have these thoughts in your head and you're about to go into recording and you hear other podcasts and they're saying something very similar to what you're saying. But I was just going up and down the lineups. And again, I'm trying to put my objective hat on here. I'm not trying to be an Oklahoma City fan, though I am wearing a Thunder shirt. And I just went player by player. And I just feel like there are maybe one or two guys on the Pacers that you would swap out if you were the Oklahoma City Thunder. So I mean, and you can go position by position. You got Tyrese Halliburton and SGA. You know how I feel that I think Tyrese Halliburton's a hell of a basketball player. You're not taking him over SGA. And I'm going to assume in this exercise that Hartenstein is not starting, which I think we will see less of him, and I'm sure you and I will talk about that more. Then you have Andrew Nembhard and Lou Dort. Are you taking Andrew Nembhard over Lou Dort, Aaron?
I'm taking playoff Andrew Nembhard possibly over Lou Dort, but no.
Okay.
Now because
we talked about this.
If you're talking head-to-head matchup of who's playing the best basketball, Nembhard has been a better two-way player during these playoffs. But if you're talking about who has the singular greater impact with what they can do, Lou Dort with what he is going to do defensively against Tyrese Halliburton, and what he has already done, the success that he's already had from him, I can't extract that from the equation. Yeah. If we're having that conversation, I do think Nembhard's had a better playoffs than Dort.
I would agree with you, but I'm saying player for player. Are you swapping out?
It's Dort. It's Dort because I mean he might have been defensive player of the year for me.
Yeah.
So
and he's struggled a little bit with his 3-point shot, but in this last series, he's really come on. He's up to 37% in the playoffs while playing world-class defense on guys like, Anthony Edwards and Jamal Murray.
Watching that guy work over screens should have an X rating because it's fucking erotic. Like, it is so hot watching that dude, just like the way that he fights over, through, around, and pushes. I talked about this on Threads. Like, Jalen Suggs is the apex predator to me in terms of watching a guy fight over screens. But then the Thunder have Dort, who just like, it is, you could just give me that as a singular camera and I could watch that for 45 minutes and that'd be enough.
Speaking of stats that have kind of made the rounds before we got on here, please tell me you heard the one about Tyrese Halliburton being guarded by Lou Dort.
No, that's what I said. That was what I was inferring in terms of what he's already had such success against him.
Success.
Yeah, because Halliburton.
I just want to state it for the people who may not know about it.
Yeah.
Lou Dort has guarded Tyrese Halliburton on 122 possessions. The man has 8 points on 10 shots in 122 possessions against the Thunder.
He's great.
Plus minus of like -16 or worse in the 2 games that he played when Lou Dort was his primary defender. The guy makes everyone's life miserable, but he can guard up and down.
Yeah.
Now, and then I'm going to assume that it's Cason Wallace and Aaron Nesmith. I could see the argument if you wanted to take Nesmith. He's a much larger player. He's a sensational shooter. Great defender. Cason Wallace.
I take Nesmith in that matchup, but
I would take Nesmith as well.
But the thing about Wallace is Wallace is now going to be in this milieu of guys that you're throwing at Halliburton the whole time, right? So they're just going to be tagging in and out like it's a 3-on-1 tag match.
Well, I mean, whatever you saw with like Hartenstein on the floor, that was the guy that the Timberwolves were trying to put into action in the pick and roll, which is why Oklahoma City steadily throughout that series, you were seeing less and less Hartenstein. He was still starting, but I think Dagnall would make substitutions at like the 9 or 10 minute mark and immediately bring Wallace in, and then the next person off the bench was Caruso. You saw less and less of Hartenstein as that series went on, which is why I don't think he's going to be Chet's backup in this series.
Yeah,
which is going to be primarily that. I don't believe he's going to start.
Which actually, I mean, separate of some of Hartenstein's struggles in terms of how he defends those actions, it's much more beneficial for Oklahoma City to have him come off the bench anyways, because Indiana has nobody that rebounds on their bench.
Yeah.
Hartenstein is going to be a monster in that second unit in terms of that.
Yeah, these are two of the worst rebounding teams throughout the entire. If you look at all 16 teams in the playoffs, I think they're like 11th and 13th in rebound percentage. Oklahoma City being 11th, the Pacers being 13th.
And I think the divide is really even bigger than that when you actually look at the personnel, because
Yeah.
I think part of it is who Oklahoma City was playing against, right? When you're playing Minnesota and their size, and you're playing Denver and their size and how well they rebound versus
Yeah,
when
Jokic is he's two handfuls on the
yeah,
bench.
exactly.
There's
Now
no
you're playing
keeping Jokic off of it.
Indiana's best rebounder is Pascal. You and I talked about this as well. Indiana's best rebounder is Pascal Siakam.
Yeah.
Miles Turner is not a very good rebounder for his position. And now you've got to deal with Isaiah Hartenstein going against what? Tony Bradley, Thomas Bryant. Like, what is going to happen there? That is going to get ugly.
Yeah, that's why Oklahoma City, I think they're going to use him off the bench and just be Chet's backup and use him, in case of fouls. And then the big matchup is Jalen Williams and Pascal Siakam, which I completely understand if you want to go Siakam on that one. But Jalen, can I just give you the Jalen Williams from the last
You already
series?
know how I feel about Jalen Williams, so I can't do that.
But I need you to hear the numbers from the last, because he had been struggling. He'd thrown up a couple of clunkers against the Timberwolves. He was averaging 22 points a game. He's 22, 6, and 4.
And
He
two
shot
steals, right?
49%. I'm sorry?
And he had 2 steals, didn't he?
2 steals. Yeah, 2 steals and only 2 turnovers a game. But he's 49% from the floor, and he was 46% from 3. For the playoffs, he's 31%. So you imagine in 5 games, he shot 46%, and it still hasn't really brought up his 3-point percentage to league average. That's how much he was struggling going into that series. But man, did he come on. But then you look at Siakam, he's 25, 6, and 3, and he's he's only shooting 3.5 3-pointers a game. He's hitting them at almost 50%.
Yeah, he's like 40. Yeah. That matchup as of right now, if we do that same thing for the totality of the playoffs, and even really in general, I think Siakam is the better player. Yeah. But even if
he's a championship level,
but it's like 51-49 anyways, if I say that, and I'm not even sure because one guy was all NBA and it wasn't Siakam.
He's been the second best player on a championship team before. Yeah. And he just won the Eastern Conference Finals MVP over Tyrese Halliburton.
Can we talk about these? Can we get rid of the conference finals awards?
They just want to have more awards, man. They want to honor the old guys.
First of all, none of us are ever going to remember this or care about it. Like, you'll ask me 2 years from now who won the Magic Johnson or the Larry Bird award, and I'll ask you what the award you're talking about is, first of all, because that's who they're named after, right?
Yes.
Magic's in the West and Larry Bird.
And I think the NBA Finals one is MJ.
Wait, look, the final, but
finals MVP one, yeah.
But why do we care? Why do we care? Like, why is the Eastern
They just wanted to they're just trying to honor the old heads, man. They're trying to keep these old guys engaged. Be like, it's the Larry Bird trophy. You remember that guy from the 80s and 90s?
As somebody who is actively in the middle of trying to memorize every award winner since 1950, we don't need any more awards.
They have more awards and they have more trophies to hand out.
Comeback Player of the Year is the only other award I'd be willing to listen to, but the conference finals awards it just feels so forced. That's my problem. I
kind of like the Bill Simmons idea when he just said they should be like the Eastern playoffs.
Yeah, sure. No, that's fine.
Who's the best guy through 3 rounds?
Yeah, I'm down.
The guy who was the best in the conference finals. I don't know. I like that idea. If you see him and it would, Halliburton obviously has a strong case. Although I did find it a little funny that he started walking toward the MVP award before it was handed out and it went to somebody else and he had to pretend that he wasn't doing that. It was really funny to watch.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then finally, obviously, Miles Turner and Chet Holmgren. I'm taking Chet Holmgren all day. So you can go up and down these rosters and you can look at these guys. I'll point out something to you that's bothered me, and I posted about it on Threads. I've seen the narrative that this series is about Indiana's offense against Oklahoma City's defense, which is a real head scratcher when you think about how good it hasn't always looked as crisp and as clean as the Pacers offense, but Oklahoma City's offense has been incredible. They were third in the regular season in offensive rating. In the playoffs, they're third again behind the Pacers and the Cavaliers. It's not like Indiana is some offensive juggernaut and Oklahoma City is the 04 Pistons. I don't know why we're talking about them as if they're not a good scoring team as well.
I don't think that that's really what's happening there, though. I just think that they're talking about optimized strength versus optimized strength, right? And it's like kind of the thing that if we're talking about what got the Thunder here, the defense is the very first thing you're going to think of.
I do understand that, but when you look at the offensive rating for the Pacers is 117.7, and the offensive rating for the Thunder is 115.9. But when you look at the defensive rating, it's 113 for the Pacers. It's 104 for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Yeah. Their net rating is a plus 11.2 in the playoffs, and it was a plus 13 in the regular season. I mean, to sit here and say that, like, yes, I understand what their greatest strength is. A lot of their offense is also generated off of turnovers and fast break points, which obviously can bring up the true shooting percentage whenever you're just getting clean dunks at the rim with no contesting. But I find the narrative to be a little bit funny because I think the series is really going to come down to, can Oklahoma City shoot the ball as well as they did in the conference finals? And can the Pacers keep pace with another team that plays in the exact same style that they like to play? The Knicks don't like to run. The Cavaliers,
yeah, although the Knicks going into that series pace wise were one of the better playoffs.
But if you look at
but they don't. They don't. But I think part of it too that the difference in terms of how those two teams generate that running style is also predicated. The Thunder like to get out and run based on turnovers, right? So yes. Even at that, the beginning part of that conversation is their defense turns into their offense. The Pacers are running make miss no matter what. You know,
yeah, and they got about 5 of those run out ones on made baskets against the Knicks. And it was driving me insane.
Yeah, and I love
that should never happen.
No, and it harkens back to the 7 seconds or less Suns, and Simmons was talking about how he had spoken with Steve Nash about how the Pacers were obviously the kind of sensible progression to that style. And you see it like on makes, they want to push, they want to go. And so I think even just from the perception standpoint, that is more offensive driven mindset from start to finish. Whereas the Thunder are going to turn you over and then they're going to start running you. So I just think it's that.
I just want to point out that throughout this entire playoffs, the Thunder have run at a faster pace.
Yeah, because But part of that still part of that has to do with what we're talking about, because their pace is based so much on how they swarm and create that. And then the other thing is, look, everybody is just trying to find a way to sensibly have the conversation where you don't have it completely on tilt. And so what do you want to do? Say the Thunder are offensively and defensively awesome, and hopefully the Pacers will be kind of good offensively.
Well, okay, that's fair. Let's talk about the things that the Pacers are good at. So, them and the Thunder in the playoffs, they're first and third. Thunder are first, the Pacers are third, respectively, in turnover percentage. They both do not turn the ball over. Halliburton had that incredible game.
That stat line was
that might have been one of the greatest individual performances I've ever seen in the playoffs.
What was it, 31, 10, and 12 with like zero?
I thought it was 35, 12, 15 and 12 or something.
Okay,
or 13, 12, something like that.
Whatever it was
with zero turnovers.
Yeah, it was some stuff that you get on NBA Hang Time. Shout out to anybody who remembers that game.
And I do want to talk about the assist numbers. Like, it's incredible to me, the assist percentage, that like the way that the Pacers pass the ball and how everything is scored basically off of a pass, off of a, very crisp, precise pass. They're number one in the playoffs by a mile in assist percentage. They are incredible at assist to turnover ratio. We've already talked about the fact that they don't turn the ball over. And their assist ratio, again, they are number one by a large margin. They pass the ball particularly well. They do not turn it over. They play a deep bench, a lot of guys that they trust, and they can shoot the hell out of the ball. And that is something that Oklahoma City has really cost them in these playoffs, that their inability to knock down the open three-point shot. They found it a little bit against the Timberwolves, but I wonder if that was just more of a 5-game apparition, or if because I mean SGA, if you look at his 3-point percentage, he's down. He was up to a little bit above league average, I think, in the regular season. He's back down to 30%. I'm trying to look just even throughout the entire playoffs. I'm only looking really right now at the last series. But I mean, Jalen Williams knocking down 46% at 5 threes a game. Dort hitting 37% at 5 attempts per game. Chad Holmgren, 36% at 4 attempts per game. And then it gets pretty ugly after that. SGA's at 32, Case and Wallace, 29. Caruso's at 41, but he's only shot it about 3.5 times a game. So I don't
What's
know.
happened with Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins 3-point shooting?
That is
Like,
hilarious that you brought that up because I was thinking those might be two consequential guys in this playoff. They have a couple of DMPs next to their name.
yeah, they have
Aaron
been.
Wiggins hasn't been a factor at all.
They really, I mean, I think he had one moment in like the Nuggets series, and that's about it. Now, some of what happens is, look, these guys have played above their talent level, and it's a credit to them. The moment's gotten real big, and teams are leaving them open, and I think it might just be a little too big for them, and that's okay considering where they're at. But for the Pacers to have a fighter's chance in this series, it's going to come down to they have to be excellent from the 3-point line, and they have to hope the Thunder are really bad, and then the turnover battle. Those are going to be the two
Indiana,
things.
they can rely on that because they've got guys like Neesmith, 53%, Siakam, 50%, Nembhard, 44%, Thomas Bryant. I know he hasn't shot a lot of them, 50%. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
really been knocking them down at a consistent clip have been Turner and Halliburton. They're
yeah.
both a little bit of a struggle from the 3-point line, but they have other strengths that have really emboldened this team. Miles Turner's rim protection and Tyrese Halliburton's playmaking ability. Obviously, they bring other things to the team other than 3-point shooting. They have guys on the Pacers who can make a ton of threes. And that's been kind of the knock from people who have been watching the film from the previous couple of series where the Oklahoma City Thunder were selling out to try and take the ball out of the superstars' hands. I don't think you're going to see the same kind of defensive mindset or defensive strategy being employed by Mark Dagnall in this series. I don't think they're going to try and force the ball out of Halliburton's hands. I don't think that they're going to collapse on him with like 3 or 4 guys and leave open shooters in the corner. I don't think that's going to happen this series the way that it happened against Minnesota when they were selling out to collapse on Ant.
I expect Oklahoma City to actually put Tyrese Halliburton in a situation where his scoring is going to be what they're allowing most. And they're going to put now. This means they have to change a lot of what they do defensively, but obviously they can do whatever the hell they want to defensively because their personnel, both from a physical standpoint and an intelligence standpoint, allows for them to really play any type of defense they want to. But I wouldn't be surprised if they actually stick to the shooters and let Halliburton have some of those space. And the biggest thing is just figuring out what happens when he turns the corner. Are we going to show and let that corner 3 or get the ball movement going? Or are we going to let him turn the corner and then just hope our rim protectors are enough and settle with him shooting 50 or 60% within, that 10-foot range? That's what I expect out of the Thunder. I don't think we're going to see them do as much as we had seen with Ant in terms of blitzing Ant and making sure that they're taking everything away from collapsing on him, and taking everything away. You don't want to do that with this Pacers team because it's not just the first pass. They'll make the first, second, and third pass till they get that open shot. The Thunder have been okay leaving people open, but the Pacers can hurt you. Yeah.
Incredibly disciplined. Well, and that's the thing. Whenever you're playing the Timberwolves, you're trying to take away Ant scoring. When you're playing the Pacers, you're trying to take away Halliburton's passing.
And the other thing too is Halliburton has had so many of these weird games where he hangs 8, 10, or 12. You're comfortable betting on, let's see if you'll take 24 shots a game. Like if I'm Mark Dagnall, I would be happy. Like even if he lights us up one game, I want to see if Tyrese Halliburton is willing to scale up his offensive performance enough to be the guy that can do that. And Look, the last time we saw that from him was a year and a half ago, but it was also not against this Thunder defense. Like he played like that type of player in that first half of last season offensively when he was averaging 25 points per game and he was a 50, 40, 90 guy. We haven't seen that same version, and I don't think he can be offensively dominant enough where if you take the ball out of his hands as a playmaker that he can make the difference that other way. And that's what the Thunder are going to do, like you said.
Yeah, I'm just, I'm kind of curious how this Thunder offense is going to attack that Pacers defense, if they're just going to put Halliburton in action over and over again. Yeah, I have questions about Neesmith's ankle, how healthy it is. Obviously, he was struggling a little bit against New York. He had really kind of tweaked his ankle, and he just didn't look quite the same. Nembhard, you and I talked about him multiple times throughout our playoff coverage. I mean, he was the X factor for me and of the series against Cleveland, how he was going to guard Spida and how he's going to guard Garland. And God, he was a nightmare. I mean, what the Pacers can throw at SGA and what they can try and do to limit the Thunder offensive production, I think they're going to do a lot of the same thing that we're talking about. They're going to try and turn SGA into a passer. I think they're going to follow the same blueprint that Oklahoma City had against Minnesota, sell out to stop SGA and make these other guys beat you.
Yeah, but the difference is just SGA's bag is so deep, and he's so good at figuring out how to get to his space and it's still attack that. The problem with that is if you're sending a second person and you're as bad of a rebounding team as the Pacers are, you're going to get killed on those backside boards and stuff too. And I feel like that's what we're going to see. We are going to see them try to do stuff, and SGA plays at a pace and in a way that it's not going to be enough to me to throw him off. And for what the Pacers,
whoa. I thought people told me that the playoffs were going to expose SGA for the foul merchant that he is. He's averaging 36 and 7. 36 and 7 on 49% shooting for the playoffs.
yeah.
Good luck trying to tell me that guy's not exactly who he says he is. He was 32, 5 and 6 throughout the regular season. He's scoring a little less and he's assisting a little bit more. And Aaron's got things in his eye. This is great for our YouTube channel.
I forget we're live. Well, fortunately, nobody's currently watching.
Watching you just really eyeball out and blink your way through this podcast, man.
Talking about SGA and talking about SGA scoring without going on a tangent, I saw a graphic today that was crazy. If the Thunder win the title, SGA will have had the highest scoring average in a regular season of any champion in NBA history.
Really? 32 points a game.
32.7. Jordan was the prior at 32.6.
Oh, wow. So
that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's a new one for me. I've heard a lot of stats thrown around. That's a pretty fascinating one.
Yeah.
So, historically, the way that we could talk about this Thunder team is that, you may not say player for player, it's one of the greatest teams of all time, but by every conceivable metric and by every measuring stick, this is one of the greatest teams that has ever played the game. If they were to finish off the title, because 80 wins, the only team that's ever won 80 plus games, if you combine regular season and playoffs, and didn't win the championship, it was the Warriors in 2016.
Yeah.
The only one that didn't do it.
The craziest of circumstances.
Yeah, the craziest of circumstances conspired. I mean, and here's the thing. When I said I'm, trying not to be a homer, I'm trying to be objective about these things. It's not me that's also being a homer. Look at Vegas. They're the ones this is one of the, if you look at the numbers, it is one of the most lopsided NBA finals, the betting odds. It's one of the seventh, biggest.
But it's
favorite.
Crazy. It's crazy. It opened at plus 750, right? If I remember correctly.
I see 700 or 750. Yeah.
Did you see what the Sixers and Lakers were in 2001?
It was plus 2,000, wasn't
plus it? Plus 2,000. That
plus
is
2,000. Yeah.
Whatever we think the disrespect is now, that is insane. Now, obviously, Vegas knew what they were talking about because we all knew how
they didn't get swept, though. Not like the Nets did in 2001.
The Nets got swept in 2.
In 2002.
In 2002. The Lakers beat the Sixers and won the Nets.
At least they didn't get swept. AI won game 1, and then, then it was.
I want to go back to your conversation about the Thunder historically and how we're going to view this team because
Yeah.
to me, the closest parallel to what I think this team's going to kind of look like in terms of the greatness, that they'll be a little undervalued for how great they are overall, is the '89 Pistons. I think this is a really
Interesting.
comparable. Now, they do have the MVP, whereas the Pistons didn't have the MVP, but Isaiah Thomas at that time was considered probably a top 5 to 10 player. But they outside of that, they were wrongfully in some ways thought as a real deep cohesive unit, which they were. But also, I think people, much like what we're seeing with Jalen Williams and the conversations about him, Joe Dumars being a Hall of Fame player and an amazing two-way player wasn't given enough credit. Jalen Williams is not now. And so people, I've heard several people go, well, they're going to historically, the talent's just not comparable. And I'm like, I don't know that that's fair.
We
First of
haven't
all,
because you haven't let their careers play out.
but even if we're talking about just right now, they have two all NBA players. They have five of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA right now, and one of the best kind of switchable big, whatever you want to call Chet as a defensive player, because he's not just a great interior defender. He's just a phenomenal. I mean, this guy's going to win Defensive Player of the Year at some point. Like,
As long as Wendy's around.
well, I mean, Wemby can't win them all because he's going to get hurt or something's going to happen, right? Like, look at what
Maybe
we just
voter fatigue. I don't know.
voter fatigue. Look at what just happened this year. Like, Wemby's not going to win 11 in a row. We know that's not going to happen. Chet will win one in there. He's going to sneak one in.
He's an excellent defensive player, both on the perimeter, and he's got the best defensive rim percentage of any player in the NBA this season.
His
Qualified
ability,
player, I should say.
I was going to say if I'm a coach, but I actually am a coach now, so I guess I shouldn't
Yeah,
use
you
that
are
term
Coach
anymore.
Winkle.
Yeah. I need to talk to my players about this. Chet Holmgren's ability to contest with verticality is maybe the best that I've ever seen in terms of he never reaches over the top. He stays tall and big, and the way in which he does that, and even if he doesn't get his hand on the ball or if the contact comes to him, he avoids the fouls. He's such a smart defensive player in terms of using his body within the limitations of his body too, because one of the biggest concerns was his lack of heft and strength, but he gets big. He's so smart about that. But just going back to it, like the conversations we're having about this Thunder team, one, you're right. What's going to end up happening is if they win the title, and I don't want to give it to them now, but if they win it, we'll look back on this team 5 years from now and they'll retcon it and we'll talk about it as one of the all-time great teams. But the way people are talking,
let me just, people act like we always knew what Steph, Clay, and Draymond
exactly
were from the beginning.
Yeah.
And I'm not comparing those teams, but like until they won the title in 2015, they weren't some household names. They weren't just this, write them into the finals every year juggernaut. They earned their way to that. And Steph had the ankle injuries. Klay Thompson was relatively unknown. They're like, he's a good shooter. Guy doesn't, he's a good defender. Doesn't really do anything else. Can't really dribble. He doesn't really rebound. He shoots and he plays defense. And then there's Draymond Green, which no one knew what the hell he was back then. And now he's turned into one of the greatest defensive players of all time. But that wasn't what they were in 2015. You have to let these things grow. And the way that happens is your reputation, your status as an NBA champion, once you win one, and then, the playoff experience. We've already seen how important playoff experience was whenever they played Denver. That was the only team that's really made them work. And they damn near took him to the very end and almost eliminated them. And then we'd be having a whole different conversation about this Thunder team. But these, they're earning their stripes. They're building their playoff resume. They're building the legacy behind what it is that they're, like the vision that Sam Presti had a long time ago. And these are how these guys write their names in history. This is how it happens.
Also, let the record show, had Denver won that series, you and I wouldn't have been having that much of a different conversation because you and I don't overreact to stuff that same way. What Denver's going to be historically winning a title, what OKC is going to be historically winning a title, yes, but I wouldn't have felt any different about how I'm projecting what they're going to be going forward in the future.
Yeah, but
what I think these players are.
You are a level-headed person.
But that's why I'm saying you and I. Yes. I'm talking specifically on this podcast. Well, I'm patting myself on the back and you on the back.
What I have been sitting there thinking, well, this was our chance. And now the paydays are coming soon for J-Dub and Chet. Do we think about trading for Giannis? Do we think about
and I would have been reining it in absolutely not.
I would have had the thought process in my head. I don't know why there's like fighter jets flying over right now. Sorry for everyone who's listening and getting that. Um, just doing some war games out here in
Yeah.
North Carolina. Yeah, I would have had the internal conversation about it because I would have been disappointed because I do believe that this Thunder team is not, I wouldn't say team of destiny, but everything that they did is like they did it the right way, the way they built the team, and they brought in the right caliber and the right types of championship or at least experienced players. Caruso, Hartenstein, Kenrich Williams, they've had for a long time, but they love their vets, especially when Caruso and Hartenstein have played as well as they have. And they've aligned all of this with the paydays for J Dub and Chet that are coming. They have a team option for the last year of Hartenstein's deal. They've got Lou Dort at a very tradable 18 or 17 and a half million. They've got Isaiah Joe, I think at 4 years, 48 million. They've got Wiggins at 4 years, 60 million. So 14 and 15 million dollars respectively. Or 12 million
Yeah.
and I think 12 million and 15 million or something like that. I can't, maybe it was 4 years, 60 million. I can't remember. But they've got tradable contracts. They have a ton of assets. They've got cap flexibility. Both of these teams are only what, 23rd and 26th in payroll.
Yeah.
These teams
Although,
built correctly.
yes, although the Pacers situation gets worse much faster because
Yeah.
of what happens after this year. They have to make their decision on
Yeah.
Benedict Mathurin or Miles Turner
We
and
don't, we don't
stuff.
need
But
to, we don't need to get into that stuff.
we don't. But I just meant because you were
Yeah, you're
comparing
right.
them. The
You're right.
Thunder have a little bit of a longer runway before things become pressing.
A little bit more untenable, sure. I mean, I just wanted to point that out just to say, for anyone who, doesn't like these teams for anything other than the fact that they eliminated your favorite team, that's the only reason that I can see why you'd be like looking at an Indiana Pacers, Oklahoma City finals and then being like, I don't like that.
Well, and it's just
How
because
you look at that and
people want to be misery merchants. What
history merchants. We're using that one.
Yeah, I mean that's what people, but that's what we're looking at. Like you saw it last week, and I don't want to give it much oxygen, but we saw all the stuff that everybody started saying last week when we knew that this was going to be the finals, and it's just stupid. It's lame. I don't care if you're not into it. I don't want to hear from you. Don't watch it. We don't care about your opinion. You're going to miss some
what about the
entertaining
ratings?
basketball.
The
Yeah.
ratings.
Yeah. But the ratings, guess what? They already signed their TV contract.
They signed the deal.
Ratings don't mean shit.
Yeah, the only thing that they
mean
want is a
nothing.
local playoff so they can split some more revenue, some
Yeah.
more playoff sales, some more jersey sales, some more t-shirt sales, some more concession sales. They just want more revenue. The TV deal is paid for, guys. It's done.
Yeah.
They're getting $70 billion for the next decade. The league is fine.
It's fine.
They're not worried about it. They're not worried about the TV rights deal. And Adam Silver is now going on TV. I sent you this earlier, and he's making this. This is another thing I was talking about. I know I'm not the first person to say it. I know it's not the most original thought in the world. But he's like, if we had Green Bay versus Kansas City in the NFL, you guys would love that.
No.
It's like, so why are we saying that market matters in this modern day and age? Shaq was saying the same thing about Giannis wanting to go to a big market. He's like, doesn't matter anymore. It's actually one of the most poignant things that Shaq said. He goes, it mattered that I played in LA in the 90s.
It's also kind of cute coming from Shaq because I'd be curious if he would be making those same remarks if he was playing right now, but whatever.
Well, I mean, Shaq's got a lifestyle that Giannis doesn't necessarily live.
This is very
This is
true.
a family man who,
although I can't wait for the Giannis Fushnikins mashup because I'm ready for that.
don't even start.
Let's go ahead and do our picks, our X Factor, and get out of the finals. So
Okay. We want to do picks and finals. Would you like to go first?
Well,
let's start with the X factors before we do selections.
Okay. So for me, do you want me to pick for both teams?
Let's do the Pacers first. I want to hear what the X factor you have for the Pacers.
So the only reason I'm picking this guy is for the Pacers to make this. I think that their bench is going to have to be really important. If Benedict Mathurin can look more like the player he looked like in game 4 and 5 versus the guy he's looked like in most of the rest of the playoffs, he gives them something offensively they're really going to need with those second units because there's no way their first units are going to win the matchup offensively. It's just not going to happen. To me, Matherin's probably going to end up in a fight before this series is over because he loves to get chippy, and the way the Thunder defend, he's going to get in some type of scuffle or something. So X Factor works both ways with him because I could also see I could see him being terrible in this series and completely marginalized, but he's got to matter for the Pacers to matter.
Okay. I completely agree with you. I think Matherin has to have a big series. They need his size. They need his physicality. They could really use it with a Thunder team that plays very physical.
Yeah, on the perimeter. They play physical on the perimeter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're going to wear these guys out a little bit. That's kind of why you need bodies to throw at it.
And TJ McConnell's too small. Like, let's just be real.
I mean, as feisty and as good as he is, he's a little too small.
Yeah.
My X factor for this is Rick Carlisle. I
Oh.
wonder if there is some. You have a guy he's been to two NBA finals. He's won one. He's one of the smartest guys in the league.
And won a finals that was like this, where they were a complete underdog.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He coached his ass off.
Yeah.
I just want to say that, like, I'm a huge Rick Carlisle fan, and I wonder, we've seen a couple of errors, completely understandable errors, but they're errors nonetheless that a coach will get blamed for, that Mark Dagnall's made throughout this playoffs. He's made adjustments. He's learned from them. I think Mark Dagnall's one of the best coaches in the NBA. I think he's very smart. I think he knows what he's doing most of the time, but he's made some mistakes that you could describe as careless. And I wonder if Carlisle can kind of pull the right levers the way that he has been throughout this playoffs, and maybe kind of get Dagnall to coach kind of defensively, kind of counter punching, zigging when Carlisle zigs instead of zagging, and playing to Oklahoma City's strengths. And I just wonder if that coaching experience from a guy who's been a head coach in the league for probably 20 plus years versus a guy who's only been coaching for about 5. I'm just curious if Rick Carlisle might put Dagnall on the ropes a little bit, kind of force his hand in a couple of occasions. Maybe by running a zone, maybe by playing smaller lineups, and putting Chet Holmgren into some action, getting him into foul trouble where they have to play Hartenstein more, who shrinks the floor for Oklahoma City. There's a lot of things that you can make Oklahoma City kind of get out of their comfort zone, both offensively and defensively. And I'm just curious if how Rick Carlisle is going to make that happen. So that's my X factor is the coaching parallel between the two.
I'm not going to lie. I'm pretty jealous of that pick because I did want to talk about the coaching matchup. And I thought
please talk about coaching.
No. I have nothing to add to it. What you said was awesome. The only other thing, of course, is one guy has won 83 playoff games and the other has won 12. And so just that experience factor could end up mattering. But
Dagnall won some games. He won.
He's got 12 career playoff wins.
He's got 12 in this playoffs.
No, 18, excuse me. 18 career
he had 6. He won 6 last year. That's all.
Excuse me.
But 85 to 83 to 18.
83
still
to 18.
A wide gulf.
Yes, just a little bit. But I love that pick. Now, if we're going to go to the Thunder, we already talked about him, but to me, it's Isaiah Hartenstein because I actually think this is a series where Isaiah Hartenstein's rebounding is going to be exactly what the Thunder paid for. Like the contract that they paid to bring him in for was his ability to make a difference in the playoffs with rebounding. And this matchup should be the one where he really earns that contract for them because I think he can feast on the offensive boards in this series. And especially if the Pacers, like you said, if they end up trying to go to zone, the best way to break that zone is going to be to have him on that backside on those opposite side rebounds, killing on that.
Yeah.
The same way that they kept beating the shit out of the Timberwolves in the zone, doing the same thing.
Yeah. What they figured out with that Minnesota zone was just attacking the dunker spot, getting someone in the middle of the paint, then getting someone to cut baseline. And that's how they started. And they had Chet Holmgren just kind of stand in the dunker spot, baseline to baseline. That's how they broke the Minnesota zone. They just kept they would have Caruso flash to the middle, and then they would just be Chet or Jalen Williams, either one of them cutting baseline side.
Diving on that backside, yep.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think we're going kind of opposite, but we're in the same ballpark here because my X factor is Cason Wallace. Because if they're not going to play Isaiah Hartenstein and they do start Cason Wallace, we are talking about a guy who is 22 years old, and he is undersized, even though he plays a lot larger than his stature would suggest. He guarded Ant pretty incredibly well, but he's not Alex Caruso size. He's not even Lou Dort size. He's 6'1". Anyone who calls him 6'2" is being incredibly generous. He's
And
only
those two guys also have about 20 to 30 pounds on them.
yeah, I think Caruso's like 195 and Dort's at least 220.
Yeah.
6'4". I mean, he is an absolute linebacker.
He's a brick
But,
house.
yeah, but I mean, when you look at Cason Wallace, he's 29% from the 3-point line. This is his second year in the league, his second playoffs. So he has as much playoff experience as Mark Dagnall has, which is incredible to think about. But he's been very crucial for them defensively. But if he's going to slide into that starting lineup for Oklahoma City, and you're taking out a 7-foot guy with great passing ability, great rebounding ability, especially on the offensive glass, that's a big thing for Oklahoma City because I think I was posting this during the game. I said that Hartenstein had created like 7 extra possessions for Oklahoma City just by, back taps on rebounds or just getting the offensive rebound outright. When you eliminate him from the starting lineup, which is what I imagine Dagnall's going to do, I don't know that for sure. He might start with the big lineup like he did against Minnesota and then just sub Wallace in pretty immediately. But I'm assuming that he might just go immediately with the small lineup to start and just bring Hartenstein up as Chet's backup. And that makes Oklahoma City very undersized. Lou Dort is 6'4", Wallace is 6'1", J-Dub is 6'6", SGA is 6'6", and then you've got a 7-foot guy in Chet. That kind of size, they're already a poor rebounding team with Hartenstein on the floor. So I'm very curious to see how that looks because if you give extra possessions to this Pacers team, they will make you pay. So that is a great way for Indiana to keep the pace with this Oklahoma City team is just create extra possessions on the glass. So that's why Cason Wallace is my X factor.
I think that's a great call.
Yeah. So how do you have the series going?
I have the Thunder in 6. I think that it ends up one of those series where the Thunder are up 3-1 and it doesn't really feel like I think the Pacers are going to get one. Probably either game 2 or game 3, if I had to guess, and it's going to be a game where the Thunder really struggle to shoot and the Pacers shoot the hell out of the ball and they end up winning that game. I think the Pacers probably win game 5 and then the Thunder end up just winning game 6.
I have the Thunder in 5. The more that I've looked at this series, the more that it just seems like we really are just kind of grasping at straws as far as trying to find reasons this Oklahoma City team is not going to win the series. I think that Denver series was a big growing up moment for them. I think they learned a lot about themselves. I think they carried that over into Minnesota, absolutely beat the hell out of them, a very good team. And I think that the Pacers are in that realm of a really good team. And I think the Thunder are a great team. And I just think the Pacers will make the series interesting. I don't think these are going to be blowouts by any means. I think they're going to make the Thunder work. I just think that there's too much OKC in the way of this Pacers team. And I just don't think that the Pacers have the firepower. And I don't think they have the ability to keep up with what the Oklahoma City can throw at them. I think they are just kind of like the JV version of the Thunder's varsity. That's just kind of what it looks like to me.
I will say that it terrifies me that everyone has OKC.
It should. I mean, because but this isn't like everyone picking the Lakers over the Timberwolves in the first round.
No, but it is like everybody going back to the conversation we had before. It is like everybody picking the Heat over the Mavs. It's exactly like
right.
That.
It could be something like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And obviously, I could be very wrong. I think I misjudged the Denver series. I think I said Oklahoma City was going to win in 5 in that one. I completely missed on that. I had Oklahoma City in 6 over Minnesota. They beat them in 5. I mean, I haven't like nailed these. I think I said,
but I mean, 5 or 6 games. You're fine.
I think I said. Yeah. Well, I'm saying the difference is also what I was thinking about was just Oklahoma City being at home. Because if they get one of those on the road, that game 5, I think Oklahoma City closes it out. So if it's 3-1 coming back to Oklahoma City, wait, am I wrong? Are they doing the 2-3-2 format? Am I tripping?
No, isn't it this year? Isn't it 2-2-1-1-1?
Okay. I thought that's what it was. I just want to make sure because they used to do the finals was 2-3-2.
unless I don't think they made that change back to that.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. I think it. Okay, so if it is Game 5 in Oklahoma City, I just don't see how there's any way
Yeah,
that
it's
Indiana
two
beats
two
them.
one one one.
Yeah, okay. I just don't see any way that Indiana can beat Oklahoma City on their home floor if they have a chance to close out the series in front of their fans. And truth be told, I have been looking at flights. I've been looking at
Oh,
flights to Oklahoma City. I have a friend who said I can stay with him. He has in his guest room, and I have a friend who's a season ticket holder, and he's like, "You can use my tickets."
wow. Well, then
Um,
I hope for you that you get
If
to
it
see them
goes
win. And
5, I could
yeah,
be in the city for when it happens. And I'm guaranteeing you right now, I will be wearing this oily ass shirt before I put on the beautiful shirt that Oklahoma City will put on my seat if I were to actually go to the game. But that's uh, that's neither here nor there. I just get very excited when I talk about it. This is a very cool experience for your favorite team to be in the finals. Obviously, Oklahoma City hasn't experienced that a lot. We thought that we were going to experience that a lot with the previous iterations of this team. And it just goes to show you that these windows are
they
shorter
close
than
fast.
they are. It goes very fast. Life moves fast. And if you don't just take a second to look around and appreciate what it is that you have as a fan of a certain team, whenever they are good in the way that Oklahoma City is very good, I'm not taking a victory lap. I'm taking a breath and I'm taking it all in before the series starts tomorrow. Very excited for the series, but I just think Oklahoma City is just far and away the best team that's been in the league all year, and we've been trying to find reasons for it not to be them, and they keep giving us reasons why it is.
Yeah.
So I just hope it's fun. That's all I want. Fun.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I mean, the one thing none of us want is a cakewalk. I don't want a skunk.
Nobody wants that. I know um, 5 games doesn't sound like super exciting, but it also is like
If it's 5 competitive games,
if it's 5 quality games, I'm happy. If it's 6 quality games, if it's 7 quality games, that's great. I mean, I don't think there's going to be such a thing as 4 quality games. If someone sweeps, it means it was never a competitive series in the first place. I
yeah,
can
although I would say
go
even
five.
last year that Boston Indiana series last year is a good example of a series that did feel kind of awkwardly competitive, even though a team got swept, but none of
Yeah,
us won it either way. That's the more important thing.
exactly. Well, that is our NBA Finals preview. We did want to talk about one more thing, and that is the W.
Yeah, let's go.
The season is in full swing. My defending champion,
Ugh.
New York Liberty, are 7-0.
Yes. Uh,
Sources say that the Liberty are undefeated on the heels of a championship.
Not only are they undefeated, but the Liberty right now are averaging 6 more points per game than any other team in the league, and they are giving up 4 less points per game than any other team in the league. Now, that being said, it feels very clear, barring any type of injury or something magical happening with this Aces team, and we'll get into them in a minute. We're headed for a collision course of a rematch. Like it,
Well, the
they're
links are, yeah, it's
they're
incredible.
8-0. The Lynx are they're 8-0. The Liberty are
It's
7 and
incredible
0.
to look at the standings and see the Liberty are 7-0 and they're in second place.
Yeah, right.
A Lynx team that is 8-0 and has the reigning MVP and the reigning, I'm not going to say reigning, but like she's kind of assuming the mantle a little bit as the best player in the league right now.
No,
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 not from Asia
no.
Wilson.
Look,
Nafisa Collier's not moving
no,
into that
no, no, no.
conversation.
She was in that conversation. She won MVP and Defensive Player of the Year last.
I understand. Yes, I
Yeah.
know.
Well,
She's
no, no. Well, no. Let's correct this. Excuse me. She won Defensive Player of the Year last year. Asia still won MVP last year because Asia had the most dominant season we've ever seen statistically last year.
Yeah, you're right.
So,
I'm sorry. I
yeah,
got the defensive player.
yeah.
That's my fault.
Yeah, Asia Wilson is also coming off a game where she just put up the best score in terms of basketball reference for the entire season, where she went absolutely nuts against the Storm. That being said, as everybody out here knows, I'm an Aces season ticket holder. I've only been to one game this year, and that was depressing as hell, and they won. Whatever's going on with the Aces right now, the first few games, it feels like they're starting to get it together a little bit. But one, obviously, it's just struggling with the losses of Tiffany Hayes, Kelsey Plum, Alicia Clark on a team that already had issues in terms of their depth.
Yeah.
Incorporating Jewel Lloyd has really been a challenge, and that's not surprising because the problem is that the Aces run an offense that feels older than me. Just in terms of there's not enough ingenuity and movement to it, and Jewel Lloyd isn't the on-ball player that Kelsey Plum was, and the Aces need that. That all being said, Asia Wilson's still the best player in this league until somebody dethrones her for an entire year. Nafisa Collier is the second best player in this league. Like,
She's Nafisa Collier has been nothing. I mean, you don't go 8-0 after making a championship run.
and missing winning the title in an overtime decisive game. Like, I mean,
That game had me. I think I was like out somewhere that night and I was watching it on my phone. And I was just like, I was like standing in the corner of a party, awkwardly watching and I was just screaming at it. And yeah, I was a mess at that game. But yeah, let's a little bit about Nafisa Collier, man. She's 25 and 9 and 2 steals a game.
yeah.
She is shooting 41% from three. Like one of the most dominant women in this game.
And the thing I love about her is she plays at her pace. You do not rush Nafisa Collier up, and that's why she won the one. That's why she won the one-on-one tournament in why am I blanking out on the name of the
Oh yeah, I forgot what the name
the
of
3-on-3 league. I apologize for everybody out there. It's been a long day. It'll come to me in just a second. But that's why she won the 3-on-3 tournament too, because she is offensively, to me, she is the most dynamically skilled player in the league. And I don't think that unrivaled. I don't know why it took me a second to get there.
The unrivaled league. That's unrivaled.
Right. But the Lynx, the thing that is so dangerous for them is, one, they have a coach who the only two other times she's lost in the WNBA finals, she ended up winning the following season. So there's that. She's got 4 titles underneath her, and their continuity has been incredible just in terms of they kept most of their roster. Courtney Williams is taking another step up, and I love her. She just plays so tough, and Kayla McBride is awesome. That being said, your Liberty have very similar continuity, and their one additional player is the perfect addition to what they needed. Natasha Cloud.
Natasha Cloud, man.
Yeah. I mean, separate of the fact that they lost the veteran leadership of Courtney Vandersloot, obviously Sloot had started to fall off in a lot of ways. She was having some personal stuff that was keeping her off the floor too. You get Cloud that steps in. She's a better defender. She has turned herself into a very good shooter, and she's just nasty. She plays with such an intense edge.
I think she's averaging a career high in points per game. I think this is the most that she's ever averaged in her career.
Early on that was the case. I think her PPGs dropped down a little bit, but you may still be correct. She jumped out of the gate. She was averaging 20 points per game in their first 3 games.
Yeah, I think she's down to like 13 now, something like.
But she's shooting 38% from the 3, which is a huge thing for her because that's not usually what she's doing.
Not her game, no.
She's 3rd in the league in assists at 6.9 assists per game. She's averaging 10.9 points, so she's dropped a little bit in terms of scoring. But
it might have been from the last time I checked her.
They don't need that from her. What they need from her, really, the only thing they needed from her was to have a guard that can get you into your offense late in games, because the reality of the Liberty is their greatest liability is the fact that, generally speaking, Sabrina Ionescu and Brittany Stewart tend to be a very mixed bag in clutch moments. Like, they're kind of all over the place. You don't really know what to expect. Natasha Cloud loves those moments. And anybody who watched the Liberty beat the Fever, where she dominated that last minute with a steal, a block, and she had a steal, a block, and a rebound in the last minute of the game, including the steal on Caitlin Clark's final shot. Like, that's the player they brought her in for, and she's doing all this other stuff for them. Like, I've been so impressed by her and just that fit and the way that looks. Those two teams are the cream of the crop. The team that I'm excited to talk about, and the team that I want people to be really paying attention to, it's actually 2 teams, are the Dream and the Mercury.
I was going to bring up the Dream, so I'm glad you did. But why don't you start with the Mercury, because I do want to talk about the Dream a little bit.
Yeah. Well, the Mercury, the thing is that they're playing this good of basketball right now without their best player. For those who don't know, Kalia Copper ended up sustaining an injury that is going to keep her out for the first 8 weeks. But they added Satu Sabali, who is balling right now. Sabali's 6th in the league in scoring and 21 points per game. She's giving them 8 rebounds. She's also averaging 2 steals per game. Her shooting percentage isn't great. She's only at 40%, but if she's giving you all that, the rest of that's fine. That's in addition to adding Elisa Thomas, who we know is probably the most dangerous Swiss Army knife in the WNBA and continues to just be on the leaderboard at every single level. And then how about this? They have a rookie right now, and I might butcher this name, but Monique Okoye-Makani, she leads all players in the WNBA in clutch points right now, and she's a rookie.
Oof.
Like that team is set up like when Kalia Copper comes back, and to me, she is one of the five most dangerous scorers in the league as a three-level scorer. The Mercury have as much talent at the top end as really anybody. The question is going to be whether or not their depth in the young player, because they have two rookies that they kind of rely on how those players come around. On the other side, the Dream, what's been interesting is their front line is ridiculous when you look at Ryan Howard at the three,
And and Brittany Griner at
Brittany
the
Griner at
five.
the five, and Brianna Jones, who I've always thought was
Yeah.
incredibly underrated, is balling out for them right now. She's averaging just a hair under a double-double. She's at 14 and 9. She's fifth in the league in scoring. She's been better than Griner. And meanwhile, Alicia Gray, who I've always loved, just
Yeah.
won Player of the Month. Alicia
Yep.
Gray is let me get her numbers real quick because this is crazy. She's 21, 5, and 5 at 50, 44, and 82 splits.
Whew.
And that's from a person that has been one of the best defensive players as a perimeter player.
Yeah.
Like she right now would be a dark horse. She's not going to do it because of the profile of some of the other players, but she would be a dark horse as an MVP player for me if the Dream continue to play the way they're playing and she continues to play the way she's
And
playing.
they're 5-2 as well. So this
Yeah.
this is also like it's not like a team that's like, they're second place in the East.
And that's with Griner only playing 3 games so far.
Yeah. I didn't want to talk about Ryan Howard anymore. First of all, she's got that dog in her.
Yes.
If anyone's got that, she's afraid of no one.
No.
She's barking in Caitlin Clark's face. She's barking in everyone's face. She's also averaging career highs in minutes, points, rebounds, assists. She hasn't even really found her stride offensively yet. She's averaging like almost 18 a game. But against Seattle, the last game they played, she dropped 33, 6, and 5. I think she was incredible in that game. I think that might be like the game that gets her back on track because she's, like I said, her shooting percentages are a little down right now. And speaking of that, I just wanted to bring up, I think Kelsey Plum's off to a really hot start in LA. Should I be concerned about her shooting percentage at the moment?
You mean the fact that she's shooting 38%? You mean that's what Kelsey Plum always does?
Yeah.
I love me some Kelsey Plum, and I'm not
Shooting
going
18 shots a game, and it's not great efficiency.
I'm not going to give any oxygen to the duplicitous character on social media who posted something talking about, the Kelsey Plum, after being disrespected by the Aces, is finally getting an opportunity.
That's ridiculous.
It was such a stupid ass remark, and it's the same person who always posts dumb shit, never justifies it or wants to rationalize it, blah, 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 whatever. But Kelsey Plum is the same exact player Kelsey Plum always is, which is to say that she is really fun to watch and she can be incredibly offensively explosive and she can be incredibly inefficient. And you're going to have a hard time winning consistent basketball if she's your best player. The Sparks, I think, knew that was going to be their situation, though, and she's given them exactly what they need from her from a leadership standpoint and somebody who juices them a little bit while they're still waiting to get healthy with Cameron Brink and waiting for Rakia Jackson to come around. Like, that's a team that you shouldn't have had much expectation for, and I'm happy for Kelsey Plum. Like, as somebody who got to cheer for her forever, there were frustrating parts about Kelsey Plum's game. She wanted an opportunity to shine a little bit more. She's getting that, but you are speaking to what is the other side of that. She's always going to be an inefficient player because of how she plays, her limitations in terms of when she drives. She tends to get kind of caught up in stuff and throws up a lot of really bad junk in the lane. But look, she set the WNBA record for most points in the opening season performance with 37 in her first game. She was ready for this moment, and good for her.
Hey, I think it was a win-win situation. I think that the Aces,
not for the Aces. No.
Well, no, I'm saying like I guess win-win in the sense of like they got to kind of let her go on her own terms.
Yeah,
from the franchise.
They traded away their first round pick and Kelsey Plum to
I
get
forgot
Jewel
about
Lloyd.
the first round pick. Yikes.
Yeah. Now, granted, the Aces do a terrible job of drafting and developing younger players, so maybe they felt like they were just punting on something anyways. But I thought Jewel Lloyd was going to be a little bit better of a fit in this system.
That's what I thought too. I thought that she would be more of a seamless fit than she has been.
And she might still figure it out. Like, look, she's an extremely talented player, and she's played a little bit better lately. The problem is that the Aces offense doesn't optimize movement shooting at all. And that's what you need from Jewel Lloyd. But everything they do on the opposite side is so stationary. And so it's like when you and I were talking about the Magic a while back where I was like, one of the things that drives me crazy about the Magic is how little off-ball action you see. The Aces will run something preliminary, and then all they're trying to do is either get Asia at the nail or Asia at the block, and it's kind of just with the same stuff. So Jewel Lloyd gets stuck in the corner, and that's what was happening with Kelsey Plum. That's part of the reason Kelsey Plum was frustrated. But she was able to get into her own offense because she could be a secondary and tertiary ball handler in a way that Jewel Lloyd's game doesn't allow for.
Interesting.
Yeah. And now I hope this changes, but if Jewel Lloyd is a player that's averaging, what is she averaging right now? 10 points per game on 30% from the floor. Now, granted, she's shooting 42% from the three, but her field goal percentage has dropped every year for 6 straight seasons. You know what the Aces need most? Shooting. You know what the Aces continue needing? Shooting.
I'm very sorry that you have to deal with the fact that your team isn't the most dominant team in the W anymore. I know this is really hard for you to just drape yourself in the titles you got hanging up behind your head there, pal.
Look, what I think we may be seeing, which sucks for anybody that's had to experience it. And as a sports fan, the last time I had to experience it was the early 90s with the Cowboys. But we're probably seeing what happens when a dynasty or something on the fringes of a dynasty, however you want to think of the Aces, because 2 titles probably doesn't qualify as a dynasty, but they obviously for 4 years were as good as anybody. We're seeing the opposite, the downturn of that, right? Chelsea Gray's getting a little too old. She's had to deal with the injury issues. Some of the other players who are now being thrust into roles that are probably too much, like Kia Stokes, as a full-time starter, just does not give you enough. You just keep losing players that really matter. Raquana Williams, Candace Parker. And now we're just seeing what happens on the other end of that because they don't develop young players well. That's just not what Becky does. Kate Martin just had a huge game for Golden State. Kate got marginalized so quickly. It's a tough thing to watch, and it's tough to be in the arena for because you can feel it. Like I went to the Mystics game, which they ended up winning and had no business winning that game. Jewel ends up hitting that three, but that entire game, the effort was bad. Asia looked like she was hungover. They didn't look like they were having fun. It didn't feel like the prior years. And that's the reality. I'm spoiled. We got 2 titles. I don't get to be a baby about it, but I'm also a season ticket holder. So I want to see the best brand of it, both as a fan and as a spectator as possible.
Hey man, I love that you're excited for your team. I mean, you just let me be excited about mine. So, why would I not, let you do the same thing?
Well, speaking of which, how much of an asshole are you? We get to talk about the Liberty and the Thunder on this podcast right now. I got to talk about the Bulls and the Aces.
Hey, let me be clear about something. I don't have a lot of teams that do well in my life. As far as it goes. Before this Oklahoma City Thunder season, I was most like the only team I could cling to that actually won some championships at any point in my life was the New York Yankees. Because my dad's from New York, he raised me to be a Yankees fan. We haven't won a title since 2009.
Wasn't Oklahoma State good in baseball at some point in there?
I mean, yes, there's the championships that you win that you don't really care as much about. Yes, there's if you do you want me to start touting all of the Oklahoma State wrestling championships? We have some equestrian championships. How's that sound? Do you want to talk about that?
I went to UNLV. We got nothing there either since 1990. Basically, the 90s were the best time for me to talk about any of my affiliations. The Bulls, the Cowboys, the Running Rebels. I'm living in the past.
Hey, you want to talk about living in the past? Oklahoma State football, the entire time I was there when I first started in 2008, the only thing they talked about was Barry Sanders' Heisman season in 1988. And then a couple of years ago, Oklahoma State decided that they got a share of an NBA college championship from 1945 and they put it on the fucking wall and it said 1945 champions. Nobody respects that. No one respects what we're doing.
Yeah, that's a pretty rough look there.
Thank you. I needed someone to say the words.
Yeah.
But I think we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the number 1 overall pick, Paige Buchers.
Yeah, I want to talk about the rookies in general because this rookie class is actually more interesting than I think it was projected to be. So obviously Paige started to find her footing a little bit, and then unfortunately she had that really bad concussion, or she was put in the concussion protocol, so she didn't play the last 2 games.
She's going to be compared to Caitlin Clark, her rookie year versus Caitlin Clark's rookie year. That's all and Caitlin Clark, I think, averaged almost 17 a game. six rebounds, six turnovers. I mean, I'm sorry, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, and 3 turnovers a game. And Becker's she's at almost 15 points a game, 5 rebounds, and almost 7 assists. Her shooting percentages, she's shooting 44% from the floor, 34% from three. Um, she's a little bit, she's about, 1.5 turnovers a game. She's a little bit more careful with the ball. I think she's also in a better situation than Caitlin Clark was going into her rookie season. So, I mean, I know that's the comparison that's going to get made.
I actually think Caitlin was in a better situation just because of the talent around her. This Dallas team is they kind of they move they only kept 3 players from last season, so all these people are figuring each other out. Whereas Caitlin got to settle in with some players that already Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell who already had kind of now Enrique is obviously there, but Dallas otherwise everybody. I mean, Dejanay Carrington's one of my favorite players, but she's brand new. I think Caitlin was just in a little bit of a better situation in terms of competitive basketball than Paige Buchers is this year.
Well, I mean, the WNBA has become a very star-driven league. I mean, people are showing out in large droves to see these highly touted college prospects as they've made their way into the WNBA. I feel like her arrival, it felt almost the same, like as far as just like the reception and the way that she was brought in. I think she's been a little less heralded, maybe.
And Caitlin Clark's just general media profile was so much larger.
So much larger, right?
Yeah, it was so much larger. So
let's feel that way.
She brought a lot more weight and gravitas to kind of each individual micro moment. The other thing too is I think Paige is I like her more in terms of a media personality, but she's just hasn't been put out in front of us as much for exactly the same reasons we're talking about. I don't feel like we're like Caitlin deserved everything that was given to her in terms of access and exposure, but we were really getting bludgeoned over the head with her to start, and it doesn't feel that same way with Paige.
I just kind of feel like the league's in such good hands right now. I just feel like the star talent there is just otherworldly. They have so recognizable players. Every time I'm watching TV, it's an A'ja Wilson shoe commercial, and Sabrina commercial, Caitlin Clark. Like everyone's, like even the State Farm commercial, like the diversity of they've used so many WNBA stars. I even saw Jonquel Jones and Ellie.
Well, Ellie might be more famous than pretty much anybody besides Caitlin Clark right now.
Don't talk about JJ.
No. Ellie the Elephant. I just mean she is everywhere. Like she is. She's probably the Liberty's biggest star in terms of like her actual media.
It's hilarious to me that whenever like Zach Lowe talks about going to Liberty games, he was like, "My daughter was more excited to see Ellie than she was the game."
I mean, Ellie has become clearly her own star on a team that has 3 of the 20 best players in the league. I want to go back to Jonquel Jones because Jonquel Jones may be the most frustrating basketball talent I've watched in the last 25 years.
What frustrates you about her? I'm curious.
She should be the best player in the WNBA, and I don't even think it's particularly close. Like she is Karl Anthony Towns with listen, let me finish. With Wemby's defense, like I just mean her offensive skill set and her bag is so deep on one end, and she's so good defensively. But the Cat comparisons do get to stay in terms of she floats in and out of games. She has bad foul tendencies.
Yeah.
She's not as frustrating as Cat is. But when Jonquel Jones is locked in and when they are utilizing her properly, she is absolutely unstoppable. I took my wife.
They can run the offense through her from like the low post
from every point on the floor because she can shoot. She can also shoot. She can shoot from every people don't realize how much bigger she is than pretty much any regular player. Yeah. Like there's the I'm gonna blank out her name right now. The Chinese girl that's on the Storm but there's nobody else that's a regular player that plays the minutes Jonquel Jones does that has that size.
Malonga could get there, but she's not. Yeah. A rookie, she's not there yet.
No, of course.
Well, and it's also she might look smaller because she's always standing next to Stewie, who's like 6'4".
Yeah.
Like Stewie like makes her look small but like physically, she's definitely more imposing than Breanna Stewart is.
Yeah,
because like she's more physical. She like looks stronger. and she's got more like that. She's got like a Zach Randolph low to the ground, like great footwork.
Yeah.
Like it reminds me a lot of Zebo, the way that
Yeah,
she like
absolutely.
can work her way into the post, and she
Yeah.
can hit from both sides of the glass.
Yeah.
Her hands are like real. She has a real soft touch. It's very feathery. Whenever, and then like you said, the way she's not comparable to like someone's footwork like Zebo is that she can shoot
Yeah.
the hell out of the ball.
So you're speaking to my point because there's not really anything she can't do on the floor besides dribble the basketball. And now I'm not trying to. This is not me like hammering Jonquel Jones. She's been a
No,
very good player.
it's
Look, what is she? The MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Most Improved Player. Like she's won a
she's got a
title.
resume.
Yeah, she's doing fine. But even when my wife saw her in person last year, she stood out just so. My wife is like, "Who is that woman? She's huge." And
Yeah,
like
physicality.
she's just so much bigger. So. Let's go back into the rookies though, because I do want to talk a little bit more about this rookie class because as
Please.
good as Paige has been, one, we're not surprised. We knew Paige Buchers was going to be
Yes.
good. There was
There's a
nothing.
reason she was the number one overall pick.
Watching the Mystics live, what the Mystics have cooking right now with those two rookies, with Kiki Irifin, I can never say her name right, and Sonia
No.
Citron, like
Sonia Citron was actually, I watched that game against the Liberty a couple of days ago. To speak to your point, I watched that game and I was like, oh, they've got talents in those two,
nice.
players. Very nice.
And Citron plays with an edge. She's tough. She was the first rookie to score 100 points this season. Like, she gives them the bit. She was pissing Jackie Young off. And it was fun to watch just as a basketball fan because this is a rookie giving them the business. And same with the refereeing. She was the way she was going at A'ja Wilson. She had a double-double in that game. I mean, I think she's averaging a double-double to start her career. She's had the most double-digit scoring games consecutively as a rookie since A'ja Wilson. Like, they are really set, especially for Leah Edwards. I don't know what's going on with her. She hasn't played very well this year, obviously coming back from the injury. But the Mystics, like Washington in general, the Mystics and Wizards, they're kind of like fun little plucky young groups now. Now let's see how they handle all that. But they're
don't trust Washington leadership in the front office.
The other two rookies that people need to pay attention to, Sanaya Rivers for that absolutely horrible Connecticut Sun team.
Yeah, they're 1-6.
And if you've watched them play,
you're surprised they won one.
It's bad. That is not fun.
The fall off is real.
And it's sad because they really got like the Florida Marlins treatment, right? Like they were a championship caliber team. They had this whole fire sale. They thought they were, and now they may be no longer that organization. It looks like they're up for sale and may not stay in Connecticut, which sucks.
Well, I mean, because that's kind of the way that the WNBA very similarly, they kind of followed the NBA model, which was going to cities that already had established arenas where they could, play. That's why the Tulsa Shock aren't a team anymore. And like, they go to places, but like you can't cultivate the fan base from nothingness.
It's not a big enough market either.
Not a big enough market in Tulsa and Connecticut and Oklahoma and those kind of states. You're just not gonna, it's not a big enough market. And it wasn't the right time. I think the timing was off on those too. The Connecticut, obviously, they've been there a while, which is sad because I mean that's a team that's competed.
They've been to the finals twice in the last 6 years. But they lost that entire group. And then Janelle Salon, which is the other French player the Golden State Valkyrie are playing competitive basketball despite which is crazy. And shout out to Natalie Nakasi, their coach, for getting them ready to play basketball. Because even when they have games where they're shooting terribly, they're still fighting and competing. And that is a testament to setting up an organization and the coaching, keeping these players involved, engaged and involved. Because you have so many rookies and so many players that don't really have much of an established resume who are playing like seasoned veterans.
I mean, that's a real blessing for them to have, especially as such a young team, an expansion team at that. I mean, a team that's, no one had any high expectations for, but especially whenever you first, debut in the league. And I think they're playing like 500 basketball. They're fun to watch. They're kind of feisty. I mean, they're talent deficient as far as like the top talents in the league, but that's to be expected whenever you, like I said, you are a
I mean, you're an expansion team. Nobody was putting anybody up on it. Like nobody was putting anybody up in the expansion draft that was going to change the direction of that team. They weren't going to be the Golden Knights.
Yeah. Well, hey, look, and just selfishly, I know it sucks that the Connecticut Sun are getting moved, but if there's a way that there can be actually good basketball for me to watch in the North Carolina area, because I will never watch the Hornets and be like, yay, I'm watching the Hornets. I mean, it would be great for
Well,
me
if you're a
to get to
college
go to
basketball
Raleigh.
fan, you got plenty.
If they would, well, I'm sorry, what was that?
I said, if you're a college basketball fan, you got plenty.
Yeah, I'm about to say I've never really been a college basketball fan.
I know.
Can I please just like, could they put a WNBA team in Raleigh so it's only 2 hours for me and I can go watch the game and be a season ticket holder like you? Like,
Yeah.
I would gladly pay for those tickets if it was only 2 hours away. That's how
Yeah.
far I'm willing to drive to watch. Because Charlotte's 3 hours away, and I won't do that unless Oklahoma City's visiting or a really good team's visiting, and I have a reason to go to Charlotte.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm not driving 3 hours to go watch bad NBA basketball. The Hornets are not fun. They're not a fun hang, but they are a cheap ticket. I'll give them that. But next time I'm in Charlotte, I'm definitely hitting up Rush. We're gonna go catch a game together, buddy.
Well, I'll be excited to hear about that adventure, and I'll be excited to hear what it's like to watch the Hornets live next season.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen the Hornets live, but it was not a fun experience whenever I did it.
Yeah, shout out to the Hornets, man. That used to be. I was such a massive Hornets fan when Zoe was
They
there.
had the best colors in the game.
Dude, I had the entire
sports jacket.
Before
I had one.
Before we duck out, because I was about to talk about the pinstripes, do you have feelings about the Magic's rebranding?
It's bad, dude.
Thank you.
You were right the first time. Don't
Okay.
apologize for being right about these things.
Oh, I
And
wasn't actually.
I don't think it's the designs themselves. I think it's just the Magic's like thought process. A star does not make an A. Stop. It looks stupid. And like it looks Disney. It looks like a team that like the good guys are playing the team that's dressed in all black on the other side, and they're the evil team, and then the Magic, they're the one. And if I swear to God, it would be like if one of them had Harry Potter type powers. That's the kind of Disney movie. It's like, I play for the Magic, but guys, I am magic. That's what it looks like. It looks like a Disney original team, and it's not surprising that that's who's on their patch, and that's what their design looks like. I have never seen anybody rocking current Magic gear. It's always like a Penny Hardaway, Shaquille.
The old school stuff was dope. Also,
Yeah.
as somebody who's you can't see it. As somebody whose signature actually is an A that's a star, I don't really have much to stand on there.
Damn. I've never, as a fan of a team who could use a rebrand almost more than anybody in the league. And like, it's embarrassing to watch like the Jazz go through their horrible rebrand and then fix it. And they'll be like, hey, by the way, we got those cool purple jerseys back that everyone liked. Like, dude, just do the thing that we liked.
Yes,
Bring
yeah.
the black pinstripe Penny Hardaway style, like mid 90s. Those things were sick.
Well, they thought they called themselves kind of doing an homage to those warm-ups with that weird cut across that makes it look like like a jersey from the old double dribble like video games. It looks cheap. Like, to me,
My feeling on it is that modern design is a fucking plague. And I understand like these teams that try to like. Do you remember like again, I'm bringing up the Jazz ones. Do you remember those highlighter colored jerseys when they try to do the rebrand?
Oh yeah, of course. Are you talking about
horrible?
You're talking about 2 seasons ago where they just had the block? They had the block print that looked like they had paid somebody $5 to spend like 2 minutes on like Microsoft Art. Like, it just said Utah. Like,
it looked fucking horrible.
Yeah, they were
the only like the jerseys that I've liked recently, like it's old cursive lettering, like the Valley jerseys that Phoenix had, or the Cream City jerseys that Milwaukee had.
Yeah,
those fucking cream colored jerseys were so nice, and they were cursive lettering. It's classic for a reason. It works.
Yeah.
The Thunder had a Christmas Day jersey that had all cursive Thunder writing on it. Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. Just cursive writing. It works.
And it's funny how often, like when the Clippers, I didn't mind this as much because I got the whole reason behind it, but like when the Clippers went to the old English and everybody just went, bleh, and then they went back to the cursive and everybody's
cursive works.
You're right.
The jerseys work.
Yeah. For me, I feel this is not going to happen because obviously it's all a cash grab. I just need a moratorium on all the fucking jerseys. Like, give me like Like
Uh,
it's too, I don't
Great
need
pick.
14 goddamn alternates. Most of them look bad now. If you want to give me one or two city editions every once in a while, the Miami Heat with the Miami Vice thing was dope. The
That was
Basquiat,
cool.
and the Biggie Brooklyn Nets, those were
Oh, the
fine.
Brooklyn one where it was like the subway station ones too.
Yeah.
I really like those.
The Brooklyn camo and the Brooklyn graffiti and the Mavericks graffiti are two of the ugliest jerseys that were ever
Yeah.
made by man.
Yeah, look, and I'm not trying. Again, it sounds like I'm jumping on Indiana, but the Indy and the big like it looks like comic book font.
Yeah.
The
Well,
their city edition jersey, those are hideous.
well, let's talk about the yes sirs.
I
That's
don't.
it's so
I
stupid.
cannot get behind this. I'm
It's
not.
so
I
stupid.
can't get behind it. It's so bad.
Yeah.
It actually, I mean, I would say it makes me mad. I'm happy that they have a thing, but like, it's not good.
Look, you're Indiana, you're the Pacers. You have a million things that you can tether to your brand that has to do with Indiana as a basketball, like
Fucking give me a Dale Earnhardt jersey,
whatever
man.
you want to do. Let's
You
have
got a racing jersey?
flag.
Let's
I don't care
go.
what it is, but yes, sirs, that was what you came up with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not.
My buddy sent me, I don't know. Let me see if I can bring this up. He sent this is the game one, just for anybody who can see it. This is what the Thunder are pulling out. And I was like, ugh, not putting out our best.
So,
A white jersey is the worst. White is not scary. Well, it's not a scary color.
so I got to shout out
Bland
Ty.
as shit.
So Ty is on our YouTube channel, and he just said, "Damn, I like those jerseys."
Which jerseys?
Yeah, which ones?
Which ones do you like?
Yeah,
The Pacers one?
yeah. I'm curious as to what his answer. I mean, no matter whatever it is, we already murdered him at this point, right? Like the jersey. But
Dude, that jersey is so bad, bro.
shout out to my guy for being the first person to engage with us on the live. I appreciate that. Respect.
Appreciate the comment section, no
Yeah,
doubt. Like,
yeah.
that
But
is.
but I stand by how I felt about all the jerseys we discussed. And
I think that's a great take. I think
this,
there's too many jerseys, and it kind of cheapens the fact of like there's only so many designs that you can do before you literally just start going away from your own color. Like there was one year where where Oklahoma City and the Mavericks, I thought that they had swapped jersey colors. I couldn't tell who.
yeah. Well, and that's
One
the
of
other
them
thing
looked
too.
like
Is
the
like,
Oklahoma City one looked like a Dallas one, and vice versa.
yeah, they've gotten so out of control and you can tell they've run out of ideas with some of them too. He liked the Mavs graffitis jerseys, which is fair. That tracks. My boy is down for the Mavs as much as possible. In fairness, they're not as bad as the Spurs camo jersey, which may be the single worst jersey that we've seen in professional sports.
Yeah, I would have to go through like a power ranking, but like imagine being the Chargers and having those gorgeous powder blues, and now you just have whatever the fuck LA has. Like, stop trying to fix perfection. It's already there. The powder blue jerseys, just bring them back.
But the problem is
we nailed it.
They want the kid to be asking for every new jersey, and that's what the parents are unfortunately saddled with, is they have to then go to Fanatics and order from Fanatics a jersey that's 100% going to come late and wrong. And then they'll have to reorder another jersey. So it's just a vicious cycle.
Welcome to the part of the episode where Aaron and I rail against capitalism. It happens at some point in every show.
It's usually somewhere in the hour 45 to 2 hour minute. We just crossed the 2 hour threshold.
Why does everyone who hates capitalism have my haircut? Why have the modern mullet? No, this has been fun, man. This is we get our first YouTube live. Congratulations.
Yes.
I don't think either one of us, I mean, you had to poke at your eye a little bit, but I don't think I was stuck looking up stats on the WNBA thing for a while, forgetting that I was also on camera and just reading like
we'll get it figured out
and stats. So yeah, this is something we're gonna have fun figuring out. But for everyone who's listening to the podcast still, which Aaron shared a little bit of information with me, I think we're well over 300 downloads as a podcast. That is incredible. Across our streaming platforms, considering we're just two guys from Threads who just like to talk basketball together. Thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast. Please like, subscribe, comment, send us some suggestions if there's anything you want to hear us talk about, especially if you want to hear some off-season talk. We are always down for that. Sorry it's
Come
been
with
so long since we've been here.
come with questions next time because I'll be also tracking the YouTube and we may save them till the end or when it's appropriate, but we'd love to have some engagement with those that are out there that are listening and that are interested. It's not always gonna be that way, and hopefully we get to a point where we can start to do a mailbag, which we've tried to do before, but we want to make sure we're utilizing an opportunity to get you guys a little bit more involved in our conversations as well. And at the very least, hopefully we can answer some questions, queries, or whatever other tangent that we can go on because we love to do that, particularly me.
Yep. The NBA offseason gets real weird.
Yeah.
I remember a couple of years ago on Reddit, whenever they thought about the Steph Curry 4-man ring around the Rosie offense, if that was
Oh yeah,
remember
yeah.
that? Oh
Yeah.
God. It would have just four guys held hands in a circle around Steph Curry and let him shoot for free.
Yeah.
Man, the NBA offseason gets weird. But we have the NBA finals to look forward to. Aaron and I are back. Hopefully, we'll have some free time to where we can both be recording. After I would like to record almost after every game. That was something that was feasible. I don't mind staying up late to make that happen.
Okay.
Uh, hopefully we can be there and we can cover the NBA finals comprehensively and talk. And these will be much shorter episodes. It'll just be instant reaction pods and then things that we think we're going to see in the following game. And then we can just go from there. So thank you guys so much again for tuning in. Aaron, is there anything that you would like to pimp, to
No,
product, to push?
nothing to pimp right now. Do have a couple exciting things coming down the line, but we'll wait till those actually are tangible. But hopefully, got a big interview with somebody that is pretty well known in the media uh, landscape next week. But we're waiting to kind of see if that happens. So I'm not going to drop it till it comes. But if it does,
Ooh, nice teaser though.
you'll have an opportunity to say what up.
Oh my goodness. Is that was that a tease?
That was a tease, but we'll
Oh
see.
my God.
Yeah.
That's very exciting. I won't say it. I won't say it. I won't say it, but I'm very excited for you. Congratulations, buddy.
Yeah.
And
Well,
we will end this podcast the way that we always do by saying adios.
peace.
I think we're still on the YouTube, baby.
We are still on the YouTube. Ah.